What we orchid lovers usually do when our favorite orchid begins to wither, drop leaves, flowers, or simply rot, we go, "Oh no, my orchid is dying before my eyes. What will I tell my friend when she finds out I killed the orchid that she gave me?" And so I rush to the internet or YouTube for advice. And of course, what luck! All I need to do is know this secret magical remedy, and this will save my orchid almost instantly. I immediately watched several surprisingly similar videos about all these magical remedies that will definitely save my orchid. I was a little confused about all the recommendations. There was everything from vinegar and spice to potato peelings. There were many videos with millions of views and subscribers, and I decided to try the garlic water first. I did everything step by step, as in all of these videos. First, I cleaned the orchid from the old rotten roots. Then I prepared the garlic water. I cut the garlic in small pieces, soaked it in the water, strained it. Then, as in many of these videos, I soaked the stem of the diseased orchid in garlic water. Then, for a long time, as in many of these videos, I rubbed the leaves with a cotton swab soaked in the garlic water, and then I dried it. After, I filled the black places on the stem and the wounded cuts with wax, as in the video, and I secured the orchid, as shown in the video, with styrofoam and filled the bottom of the jar with water and sprayed it with garlic water and put it in a well-lit place. And I began to wait and hoped to get the promised result in 40 days. Well, after only 26 days, I decided to stop this mockery of myself and of the orchid. Look how severely dehydrated my orchid is. Mold has begun to appear on the underside of the leaves, but the promised roots are still missing. Although 2 tiny tubercles of embryonic roots are noticeable on the stem, which indicate that the plant is still continuing to fight for its life. One thing is clear. If I continue to do this, I will completely destroy the plant. This is enough. I think everything is very clear now. How do these YouTube creators do this? Well, I thought, and I took out some super glue, and look, it worked. And you can't even tell it apart from the real thing. The glue only shows off its shine, and you can spray it with water. I'm not even that professional. Well, we were deceived again. How do you feel now? All these videos, without exception, are all deception, fraud, sleight of hand, often just substitutions, or glue, or Photoshop. Don't you see how similar they all are to one another? First of all you need is one magical remedy, and it's always something that people always have in their kitchen, then a lot of rubbing and soaking of this magical remedy, then cunning methods of securing the orchids in a container, and then multiple video inserts showing a bunch of healthy, often store-bought, wholesale, or greenhouse orchids in large quantities to confirm this effect. Classic hoax, right? All of YouTube and the internet is filled with these types of videos, with millions of views. In many videos, this magic remedy is not even named, with the simple goal of making curious people watch the video again and again, thinking that they missed some important information, thus adding views and further deceiving the YouTube algorithm so that it will believe that this video is actually interesting. This is an old and banal trick for scammers. I'm not going to touch this topic, but such videos simply filling the internet is almost completely clogging normal orchid channels in which people really try to educate the viewer on biological features of growing orchids at home. It was immediately clear to me that these videos were fake because the roots of these orchids can only grow from stem cells located in the healthy tissues of the monopodile stem. Roots no longer grow from dry, blackened parts of the stem. Roots also do not grow on single leaves for the same simple reason, due to the absence of stem cells at the base of the leaf. It is also impossible for an epiphytic plant such as an orchid with aerial roots to make a plant adapted to absorb water through special root hairs like soil plants. So growing orchids in water is also impossible. We have a video on our channel with a detailed explanation of why this is biologically impossible. The link is below. Roots will not grow on leaves turned upside down and immersed in water for the simple reason that gas exchange is necessary for photosynthesis to occur through the stomatal opening on the leaf surface. And orchids have an unusual type of photosynthesis called cam photosynthesis, like the type that cacti and succulents undergo. Now, imagine what would happen to a cactus that was flipped upside down and submerged in water. It will rot. Active capture of carbon dioxide occurs at night, when the leaf stomata are completely open. And how can an orchid leaf breathe if it's immersed in water upside down? All of these videos with similar content are simple deception, so try to avoid them, because these creators who churn out such things take advantage of the ignorance of orchid lovers. It is important to understand that even without a substrate, orchids cannot grow and flourish for a long time. Therefore, growing and rehabilitating orchids in empty vases, bottles, and glasses with a small amount of water is also within the realm of myths and legends. Although orchids themselves cannot receive nutrients from the substrate directly, by attaching to the surface of a tree and growing on it, orchids do not parasitize or harm their host, but they use it as support, and most importantly, microbiotic diversity. Information is exchanged through the surface of the tree bark and the mosses. Bacteria, protozoa, and mycorrhizal fungi colonize the velamen of the orchid roots, getting there from the surface of whatever substrate on which they grow. And that is why, when growing orchids, we use various organic substrates. We use mosses, bark, and so on. If you understand how orchids receive their nutrients, you must understand that there is no magical remedy that can exist to restore an orchid grow its roots, especially not instantly, as they promise you in these dubious videos. It is believed that there are no fertilizers for orchids at all. Any fertilizers that are used for orchids are aimed at the microflora inhabiting velamen. When adding fertilizer to the substrate, and please note that this is in the substrate and not water, we first of all need to feed the nitrogen-fixing bacteria, and then they will give the orchids everything they need. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria, mycorrhizal fungi, and protozoa that inhabit the velamen of aerial roots of orchids are the main mechanism for the acquiring of nutrients for orchids. Velamen is a unique layer of cells of aerial roots and is playing a role in both the soil and the substrate of orchids. So if you want your orchid to be prosperous and healthy, collect rotten wood in a forest or park that is permeated with the mycelium of various fungi, full of various soil microbiota, and add this to your already existing orchid substrate. I assure you that you'll notice very quickly how an orchid that is withering will begin to feel a lot better. And one more thing. In these fake videos, there is never any chronology or dates, because again, this is deception that is achieved by many means. Photoshop, editing, glue, substitution, replacement. For example, such images of orchids with a large number of peduncles of flower spikes can be easily made using Photoshop. If you've been growing orchids for a long enough time, you probably noticed that orchids only produce one flower spike per pair or per 3 leaves. So that is, if there are 7 peduncles in the picture, there should be at least 7 pairs of leaves. That means there should be 14 full leaves on a monopodal stem. I don't see this in these pictures, and from this I can confidently conclude that this is a hoax. Peduncles are either simply cut from another orchid and stuck onto the substrate, or the above images are created using the help of Photoshop. If you have any doubts about my arguments or words, you can try it out yourself. But there's only one of 2 things going on here. Either I'm a complete idiot and my knowledge and experience is worthless, or YouTube and the internet in general is simply filled with fake videos by creative crooks.